majority for the first time since 2002. Two states still too close to call, Virginia and Montana. And there is a lot of Wednesday morning quarterbacking going on. Among the questions being asked, what went wrong for the GOP? Why did people vote the way they did? And what will it mean for the next 2 years and for President Bush? Our political team is going the distance this morning. David Schuster is in Virginia, where the word recall is being thrown around. Michelle Hofland is in Missouri, where another woman is going to the Senate. Michelle will speak live with Senator-elect Claire McCaskill. And Chris Jansing is in Connecticut, where Senator Joe Lieberman is celebrating his dramatic comeback. We begin in Virginia, where the race for Senate between incumbent George Allen and Democratic challenger Jim Webb is still too close to call. Let's take a look at those numbers right now. You have Jim Webb there and George Allen with just a vote difference of 7,847 votes. Hardball's David Schuster is in Richmond, Virginia. So, David, what is the situation? When will we know the situation?
Well, Amy, both campaigns are going to get a pretty good idea today whether or not this election has essentially went in without major hitches or or additional errors or arithmetic, etc. The point of today, and again, the election is not going to be certified for almost 3 weeks. So what happens today is they continue counting some of the absentee ballots. That's was something they were doing all of last night, which is why the margins continue to change. Most of the absentee ballots were coming from districts that were very supportive of Democrat Jim Webb. So you saw his margin over Allen get larger and larger through the night, although when you think about it, less than 8,000 votes out of 2.3 million cast really amounts to only about 0.3 of 1 percentage point. But in any case, today they will continue counting some of the absentee ballots. They will also look at some of the provisional ballots that were cast. Some voters, both for Jim Webb and for Republican incumbent George Allen, were either not registered or there's some problem at the polling site, so they cast a provisional ballot. Those will be counted today. And then the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to have lawyers fanning out across the state, representatives of the parties, and they're going to engage in something known as a canvassing operation. Again, what the canvassing operation will do is they will check and make sure that each of the precincts reported their numbers accurately to the Secretary of the State. They will make sure that the tickers and the tape representing the electronic voting machines, that those don't indicate major problems or any problems. And then there'll simply be a determination to try to make sure that the numbers from last night are accurate. So at least both campaigns should have a pretty good idea later today as to whether or not there were any errors that might have been worth several hundred or several thousand votes. Last night, George Allen called this an interesting election, an election that continues. The Democrat Jim Webb said, the votes are in and we won. But as far as the state of Virginia is concerned, this election will not be certified, as I said, for 3 weeks. And only at that point, only after the election is certified with whatever figures they come up with, only at that point can the loser then request a statewide recount. So there is still some room for that recount request based on the arithmetic and the math and whatnot. But again, the message today is the candidates should have a pretty good idea whether there were any mistakes yesterday that are worth either several hundred or several thousand votes. Amy?
All right, David Schuster, thanks so much. And so the Senate is still up in the air. Right now, Republicans have 49 seats, but we're waiting on Virginia and Montana. If Democrats win those states, they will have 49 seats, and the GOP will have 49 seats as well. But there will be 2 independents. Lifelong Democrat Joe Lieberman has said he will vote with Democrats. Democrats gained a seat in Pennsylvania, and the latest numbers give Senator-elect Bob Casey an overwhelming 18% lead over Rick Santorum. Democrats also gained a seat in Rhode Island, where Sheldon Whitehouse beat incumbent Lincoln Chafee. The latest numbers give Whitehouse a 6% lead. The Democrats keep a Maryland seat. Ben Cardin won a tough race against Republican Michael Steele, Cardin winning by about 10%. And there will be more women joining the most exclusive club in the world. Senators-elect Amy Klobuchar and Claire McCaskill now bring the total of women in the new Senate to 16. That is the most to ever serve at the same time. All 6 incumbent female senators won re-election last night. Well, more on that Missouri race, where Claire McCaskill defeated incumbent Senator Jim Talent by just about 2 percentage points. McCaskill told supporters this is all about change.
Enjoy tonight. You deserve it. Because the Democratic Party once again has claimed Harry Truman's Senate seat for the working people of Missouri.
NBC's Michelle Hofland is in St. Louis this morning, and I know Michelle standing by you is Senator-elect McCaskill.
Yes, she is. You know, it was a nail-biter here throughout the night, Amy. We're watching the numbers very, very closely as they were coming in. Through the evening, it had Senator Talent with a lead, and then just a short time after midnight, that's when, for the first time, we had a big roar upstairs with the McCaskill people. They were all excited because she had taken a 13,000 lead. 45 minutes later, it was over. Senator Talent conceded, and the senator-elect, Claire McCaskill, she announced her victory. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You haven't had much sleep.
No, I haven't. Not for a while.
Okay, just to steal a line from the movie The Candidate, what do you do now?
Well, we have some serious work to do. I mean, our country is divided. Congress is divided. It doesn't matter who's in control. It's close. So that means we need to quit trying to make each other look bad, and we need to start working together to try to solve some problems. That's what I hope, being a moderate from the middle of America, that I can bring to the Democrats in Washington. Let's quit trying to point fingers, and let's get together and try to solve some problems for the American people.
What about you being a female? There are now 16 women in the Senate. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the people in the country?
Well, I think to the extent that I've had to multitask as a single mom with 3 kids and do more with less, I think I can help balance the budget because I've had to do that in my life. But really, in the long run, I'm not sure gender is as important as being an independent voice. What happens, people go to Washington and they forget about the people at home. They start listening to the lobbyists and all the people that think they're important, and they forget that they're real families that are struggling, and we need to work for them.
On a personal note for you, I've been watching, and you have your sisters who are here. Your mother's been on the campaign trail. I saw your sister this morning. One of them, she has a T-shirt on and socks. I mean, no, she doesn't even have any shoes on at all.
Yeah.
They have been with you this whole campaign. I also understand the last hours, according to your PR person, you had volunteers literally dropping out of the sky. How did all this play with you, and how did it help you with your campaign?
You know, this is Harry Truman's Senate seat. Missourians are very independent, but there's a whole lot of Democrats in Missouri that realized that we could make something special happen this year for the first time in a long time. So everyone was very enthusiastic. My husband, my family, everyone. And so, they all had a part of this, and I'm very grateful.
You said that even though the polls were, it was looking like it was for Claire McCaskill, for Talent early, you knew earlier on that it was going to be for you.
We knew we'd done better in the rural areas than Democrats had traditionally done. We knew when we saw the early returns that it was probably going to be a good night. We just had to wait for St. Louis and Kansas City to deliver the results.
Claire McCaskill, Senator-elect, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Amy, back to you.
All right, Michelle Hoffland, thank you. Let's take a look at some notable House races. Republicans lost one of their House seats in Florida's 22nd district. Democrat Ron Klein unseated Republican Congressman Clay Shaw, who has represented South Florida since 1981. In Connecticut, Republican Christopher Shays keeps his seat. He held off Democrat Diane Farrell to win an 11th term. Late last night, Farrell refused to concede, saying there are a lot of votes that still had to be counted. And in Louisiana, William Jefferson, he's the congressman accused of hiding thousands in bribe money in his freezer. Well, he won his race. With 30% of the vote, he's going to face a runoff with fellow Democrat Karen Carter. That happens on December 9th. And when voters left the polling booths Tuesday, the reasons for why Democrats ultimately won the House and possibly the Senate were quite different from what many polls showed previously. NBC's Chip Reed poured over those results and joins us now from Capitol Hill with some of the figures. And Chip, poll after poll in the weeks and months leading up to Tuesday said Iraq was the biggest concern of voters, but that's not what the exit polls showed, correct?
That is correct, Amy. Let's take a look at what it did show. These are voters, as they're leaving the polls, asked a series of questions, and one of them was, what issues were very important to your vote? Corruption and scandal, 75%. Terrorism, 70%. Iraq, 66%. To tell you the truth, Amy, I'm not sure what to make of this, because clearly this was an election about Iraq. This is inconsistent with that. Will this later be proven to just be one of those funny exit polls that didn't quite jive with reality? I don't know. But I think at the very least what it does show is that corruption and scandal were issues out there. They were important issues to voters. And that is good news for Nancy Pelosi and company. Nancy Pelosi, the future Speaker of the House, because she has made very clear that her #1 priority, the first thing she and the Democrats are going to do when they come in, is change the ethics rules. She calls it draining the swamp, cleaning the place up. And I tell you, if they don't do that after repeatedly promising to do so, they will be off to a very bad start. Amy?
So, Chip, in terms of the war with Iraq, even though it seems to be, according to these exit polls, not the most important thing on voters' mind, what did they have to say about what they feel should happen next?
Well, let's take a look at that. On Iraq, on Iraq, what were voters' feelings about what should happen next? And here's what we found. Troop withdrawal, 55%. Stay in Iraq, 37%. Now that, of course, is much more consistent with what we've seen in previous polls. Now, troop withdrawal, very vague. Does that mean immediately? Does that mean a phased withdrawal? I think you're going to see the Democrats getting into a big debate over that. As soon as they finish their first list of items, then, of course, they will turn to Iraq, and that's what they will be debating. How quick should that withdrawal be? And that doesn't mean George Bush will go along with any of it, Amy.
And, Chip, an interesting statistic also was the reason why some people went to the polls at all.
That's right, Amy. Let's look at full screen, as we call it, number 3. 40% voted to oppose the president. That really is extraordinary, that 40% of the people actually went to the polls to oppose the president, and that tells you what this was about. And let me also mention, that's a bit inconsistent with that first poll. If they were going to the polls to oppose the president, then Iraq was the issue, not corruption and scandal, because that's a congressional issue. But clearly, the president, this was in large part a referendum on President Bush, according to this poll and according to so many other polls that we've seen. Amy?
All right, Chip, we appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, coming next, one of the unresolved Senate races, the battle in Montana. I will speak with the Democratic candidate Jon Tester coming up next. Also, Senator Joe Lieberman stages one of the most dramatic comebacks in midterm history. We're going to head to Connecticut coming up. Plus, a reminder for the very latest vote totals on every House, Senate, and governor's race in this country. You can log on MSNBC.com. On the front page, you can click on your state to see how the races ended. It's all on MSNBC.com.
MSNBC's coverage of Decision 2006 is brought to you by Liberty Mutual.
We know responsibility sometimes means working a little harder. That's why really good students get a really good discount on their car insurance. Responsibility. What's your policy? Liberty Mutual.
Afraid to show your face? Not me.
Finally, a breakthrough solution for red, irritated skin. Aveeno Ultra Calming Moisturizer with natural feverfew proven to reduce redness fast.
When you've got healthy, beautiful skin, you're not afraid to show it.
Aveeno Ultra Calming.
Okay, girls. This one's for us. It's L'Oreal's new Age Perfect makeup. It helps transform your complexion from dull to radiant. New Age Perfect gets back at those little spots and wrinkles. Now, my skin, I'm talking radiant. New Age Perfect skin supporting and hydrating makeup by L'Oreal.
The 7th and final season, now on DVD. The end of an era.
You're the future. We're counting on you.
And a new beginning.
You ain't seen nothing yet! He's not gonna know what hit him.
With intriguing extras.
It's been a hell of a ride, though, hasn't it?
The West Wing, the 7th and final season, now on DVD.
You should think about killing the mold in here, big guy.
How's that work for you?
There's a better way to deal with your mold problem.
Big guy?
Tilex, the mold killer.
Keith Olbermann's special comment. One thing is certain. When Keith talks, people listen. Only on Countdown. Only on MSNBC.
To engineer a new rewards card for a business like yours, Open from American Express rewrote the rules. We started with business-size spending power. Enough to buy inventory, supplies, and equipment. Spending power that can grow with your business. Because businesses spend more, you deserve more. So we put no limits or expiration dates on the points you earn. And we reward you faster with accelerated bonuses that can speed you to as many as 100,000 points in just 1 year. Good for 4 domestic airline tickets or other great rewards for you, your employees, and your business. The Business Gold Rewards Card from American Express. Expanding rewards to business dimensions. That's Open, how American Express serves small business. Call 800-NOW-OPEN to apply. We'll start you on your way to 100,000 points and waive the fee for 1 year.
Well, the Montana Senate race is still too close to call. The ballots in Yellowstone County are being recounted this morning. Joining me now is Jon Tester, Democratic candidate for the Senate. And John, do you anticipate declaring victory, and if so, when?
Well, as soon as we get all the votes tallied up, we'll declare victory at that point in time. This thing's wrapping up pretty fast here now, and I anticipate it'll be shortly.
I mentioned the recount is happening right now, or at least the counting is going on in Yellowstone County. That is the area your opponent, Senator Burns, is from. You concerned at all about what that may do to the tally right now as it stands?
Actually, from what we've seen come in so far, we've done as good as we could expect to do in Yellowstone County. We've been very satisfied with the results coming out of there. And it's actually just a matter of getting the loose ends tallied up here in the state of Montana, and we can put this thing to a close.
I know leading into the election, everybody puts on a rosy smile and says they're confident they're going to win. Are you surprised just how close this one has become and the national attention that's clearly focused on your state?
Yeah, well, it's kind of fun. I mean, it's part of the process. You know, politics isn't for the faint of heart. That's for darn sure.
Is it a little overwhelming?
Well, you know, it is actually. I mean, we've got a lot of national media here and a lot of in-state media, and it's been a lot of fun overall. You know, it's great people and good people to work with, and the people of the state of Montana have been absolutely super as we've gone around for the last 18 months.
There was a lot of trouble for your opponent, Conrad Burns, and his alleged connections to Jack Abramoff. Do you think that this vote was a vote against your opponent and not necessarily for you?
Well, I think there was some of that. I mean, there was some resentment to what had happened there with the Abramoff connection, but I think overall, I think Montanans were looking for a change.
Now let's talk about Montana. This is the reddest of the red states. It's been called 59% in favor of President Bush just 2 years ago. Do you think perhaps that your potential victory within hours from now is a reflection on the changing of the state of Montana, or do you think it's a part of a national trend?
No, I think it's part of it, but really Montanans have been pretty independent in their thinking, and they just want honest representation back in Washington, D.C., and somebody who's able to balance a budget and be fiscally responsible, and somebody who will provide leadership. And I think, you know, Montanans over the years have been very independent-minded, and I think they tend to vote for the person more than the party.
All right, Jon Tester, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. Don't bite your nails too much.
I won't do that. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, in just a few hours, President Bush will hold a news conference to respond to the election results, and the loss of Republican seats is seen as a direct criticism of the president and the war in Iraq. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is at the White House. So, Kelly, what can we expect in terms of the tone of this press conference?
Well, the president is likely to try to do two things: extend graciousness toward Democrats in their victory, to congratulate them. He's already demonstrated that this morning with a series of phone calls. I'm sure he'll speak about that in his opening remarks. But he will also try, according to advisors, to make clear that he views the fact that he has 2 years in office still to go, that there's plenty of work for him to do. And some have described it as he will not mark time, he will not run down the clock, terms like that, to suggest that the president will try to kickstart his own agenda now working with Democrats. So you'll see those two sentiments. On the one hand, trying to be acknowledging how voters have responded around the country. I doubt very seriously that he would view this as a direct rebuke of his leadership, although there are many who view it that way, but that the president will say that there is work to be done. And then he'll take a series of questions. And I suspect that one of the questions will be having to do with the notion of political capital. When the president won re-election in 2004 and he had his post-election news conference, he talked about having earned political capital in the campaign and his intention to spend it. Well, now, 2 years later, is it the Democrats who have earned that capital? How will the president view that? So I would expect that would be one of the questions. And he may again try to assert his views on Iraq and on taxes and trying to find some middle ground. There are some issues where he believes Democrats have some of the same views. In the area of immigration, for example, he feels strongly about a guest worker program, and perhaps that's some place where they can try to work together. So what I think you will see is an acknowledgement of the losses for Republicans, a hand extended to Democrats, but also a commitment to trying to keep working. He does not want to appear as if this has stopped him from doing his job. So blending of those sorts of emotions today.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell at the White House. Kelly, thank you. And hardballs, Chris Matthews running on about, well, apparently we have an exact calculation here, 3 hours of sleep. He will anchor our coverage of the president's news conference at 1 p.m. Eastern time right here on MSNBC. Well, 12 years after the Republican Revolution, the Democrats have pulled off their own coup. We will be hearing from the incoming Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. That happens at noon Eastern Time. So let's talk about how it happened. Let's bring in Craig Crawford of Congressional Quarterly and Jonathan Alter of Newsweek, both men, MSNBC contributors. Also with us, Republican strategist Joe Watkins. Everyone, thanks for being with us.
Good to be here. Good to see you.
Jonathan, we heard everyone saying, or at least conceding, that they thought this was going to be a Democratic wave. Not a wipeout, perhaps, or we've heard tsunami thrown around as well. But that is pretty much what it looks like is happening here. With the votes counted, do you think 2006 is the new 1994?
Yeah, I think it will be mentioned in the same sentence as 1994. It's a historic election. And one of the things that's so interesting to me about it is there was this sense that the idea that the founders had come up with, which was that the House of Representatives, the so-called People's House, was supposed to be very, very sensitive to public opinion. There was a sense that that had broken down because of the powers of incumbency and the maps that were drawn and gerrymandered and the pork that the members would use to protect themselves. And so in some ways we're moving back toward what was originally envisioned, which is that when people were upset about something, in this case Iraq and corruption, that there would be political change as a result.
Craig, the Northeast kind of set this wave into motion. The blue states became bluer. We see Lincoln Chafee losing his seat in Rhode Island. And many had said, hey, the Democrats need to learn how to play in the South and in the Midwest. But based on this election, do you think Republicans need to learn how to play better in the Northeast?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, Democrats have solidified their base in the Northeast. Problem for that is it's the shrinking part of the country. So they are the best thing for the news for the Democrats is these inroads that they've made in the West and a little toehold in the South, which they need to expand. I don't know that Republicans have many opportunities in the Northeast, but there are a lot of seats there that would naturally go back Republican if they can get. But I think Republicans have to get away from George Bush. They have to start to move away from the age of Bush, 2 decades of party rule by a single family, and that's going to change. And the sooner they make that change, the better off Republicans will be.
Joe, I know it's not a happy day for you and for your fellow Republicans. Many people are calling this a painful period of self-examination for Republicans. Do you think it was just the climate, or do you think that Republicans were off the mark, were off their game?
Well, this is clearly a tough time. I had a lot of friends in both the House and the Senate who lost their seats last night, and a lot of staffers who worked with them. And but you got to congratulate the Democrats. They did a very, very fine job. They had a very impressive showing yesterday. And now the challenge for them is, how do you make good on the promises that you made? Now, I wish everybody well. I'm an American, and I'm an American first before I'm even a Republican. And the hope is that everybody who was elected yesterday will realize that they're supposed to be about public service. Now, that being said, Democrats spent a lot of capital, of course, beating the president up on the Iraq war and the tax cuts and various other things. Now they're going to have to work with the president. Howard Dean, I noticed, very quickly stated that, well, of course, we won't be withdrawing from Iraq anytime soon. We'll work with the president to kind of redefine where we're headed there. And that's exactly what Democrats are going to have to do. They're going to have to work with this president to make sure that we move forward as a country.
And we are going to look forward with Joe, Jonathan, and Craig coming up in our next block. So we appreciate you all sticking around for us. But in the meantime, Election 2006, tainted by claims of old-fashioned dirty tricks and problems in the voting booth. What went wrong and what went right? We're going to hear from someone who was watching the polls just ahead on MSNBC.
How can it be offensive if it's true?
Okay, first of all, I'm not 100% in love with your tone right now.
Tone aside, historically, you guys have struggled to adapt.
Yeah, right. Walking upright, discovering fire, inventing the wheel, laying the foundation for all mankind. You're right. Good point. Sorry we couldn't get that to you sooner.
Connie, your reaction?
Sounds like someone woke up on the wrong side of the rock.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Here's some great health news from Smart Balance. New delicious Smart Balance Omega Foods. Omega Plus buttery spread with natural plant sterols and omega-3 from the sea. Smart Balance peanut butter with 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s per serving. Omega Plus light mayonnaise and omega cooking oil. They give you more omega-3s with no hydrogenation and no trans fat naturally. Smart Balance Omega Foods. So important, and you're gonna love them.
Money should be fat.
It should be big. At HSBCDirect.com, we've created a way to make money into bigger money. HSBCDirect.com offers an online savings account with a 5.05% annual percentage yield. That's 8 times the national average. Let your money grow big at HSBC. Brought to you by HSBC, the world's local bank. Member FDIC. Discover more at HSBCDirect.com.
When it comes to toasting, your options are limited. There's a traditional toaster that simply makes toast. Then there's a classic toaster oven that, while versatile, doesn't make very good toast. But now there's the new Hamilton Beach 2-in-1 Toast Station. All the best features of your toaster and toaster oven combined into one. With Toast Station's fully functioning toaster and extra-wide 2-slice capacity, you're free to toast any kind of bagel or bread you can imagine. And with a flick of a lever, the Toast Station toaster instantly converts into this handy toaster oven with a unique bottom compartment that bakes just like a traditional oven. You'll get delicious results from breakfast to lunch to dinner and any snacks in between. And Toast Station's oven bakes and quickly reheats pizza to crisp perfection. The 2-in-1 Toast Station from Hamilton Beach, for all your toaster and toaster oven needs.
Call now to get the remarkable Hamilton Beach 2-in-1 Toast Station. Its space-saving design takes up a fraction of the counter space of a conventional toaster and toaster oven. It's perfect for the kitchen and college dorms. Order now and you'll also get this CD with over 100 quick and easy recipes. A $10 value, yours absolutely free. You get the remarkable Hamilton Beach Toast Station with its extra-wide 2-slice capacity plus the recipe CD. A $60 total value, all for only 2 easy payments of $24.95. Call now, 1-800-903-8560. That's 1-800-903-8560. Or visit toaststation.com.
You know, the message couldn't be clearer that it is time for a new course. Beyond all the partisan, ideological division, back to the vital, dynamic center to begin to solve the problems of New Yorkers and Americans.
By a margin of 36 points, New York Senator Hillary Clinton won her bid for re-election. And now that this race is behind her, the talk of a presidential run will begin in earnest. As for the first woman to be Speaker of the U.S. House, Nancy Pelosi will hold a news conference in about 2.5 hours. Last night, she talked about her fellow Democrats who won back the House.
Let's hear it for our candidates all across the country. Our fighting Dems, our vets who are running, our working moms, our community leaders, our law enforcement, all across the board, these candidates have excellent credentials, great ideals, and they are, again, fighters for the future.
So what will that future mean for Americans? Let's bring back in Craig Crawford, Jonathan Alter, and Joe Watkins. Jonathan, we just saw Nancy Pelosi there. Do you anticipate, some have said, she'll be the mirror image of Newt Gingrich, likening what happened in '94, of course, to what's happening in 2006? Or do you think we'll see a more centrist Nancy Pelosi?
More centrist. You know, I had breakfast with her a few weeks ago, and I asked her precisely that question, and she answered it by saying more centrist. They don't want to repeat the mistakes that the Republicans made coming in 1994. But they do have an agenda of things that they're going to go at, she said, in the first 100 hours after they take over in January. And those include issues like the minimum wage and being able to negotiate for lower drug prices, which was something that was left out of that prescription drug bill last year. So there are certain things they're going to push hard on. But I think they're going to be careful not to try to burn down the House in the process.
And the second 100 hours, Bush will veto it.
I know, exactly. Well, Craig, what does 2006 mean for 2008?
Well, I think we've seen some drop it. We know some people who aren't going to run now. George Allen possibly not going to be much of a presidential candidate. I would say even if he ekes out this victory, but definitely if he loses the Senate from Virginia. I think we're going to see maybe some candidates like Rick Santorum play with it, even though he lost the Senate. But really, I think what we are going to see is the Democrats have an opportunity, but also a challenge. Many of the Democrats who were going to run for president wanted to run against a Republican Congress, so they could blame it on them. Now Republicans are going to be able to blame. The blame will go back and forth now. It'll be much more evened out.
Joe, the Democrats running on a theme basically saying vote for change. And it was funny, on my way into work yesterday, someone shouted at me, hey, don't work too hard because no matter who wins, nothing's going to change. What do you see happening?
Well, I think that's a very good point. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is going to face some challenges. Congratulations to her, of course, on being the first woman to be Speaker of the House of Representatives. But the challenges she's going to face, of course, is she's going to have to come more to the center, as, of course, Jonathan just explained she will. But in addition to that, she's going to have to rein in some of those House chairs. Remember now that the chairmanship of some of the House committees, of all the House committees, will change hands, and you've got some House chairs who are pretty radical guys. I mean, you've got, of course, John Conyers, who's been threatening for months that if he gets to be chair of the Judiciary Committee, you know exactly what he's going to do and who he's going to go after. And Nancy Pelosi has to work very hard, I think, to make sure that she keeps her new committee chairpersons in check so that they don't run amok and allow her to actually work with this president to get some things done in this 2-year period. She's got about 2 years to get something done.
All right, Joe Watkins, Craig Crawford, Jonathan Alter, thank you all for your expertise. We appreciate it. Thanks. Well, a reminder at noon Eastern Time, we will be hearing from the soon-to-be House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, who won her race by a margin of 70 percentage points. She's holding a news conference at noon, and we're going to have it for you live. Coming up, from claims of intimidation to electronic meltdowns, we'll check in with someone who was monitoring the polls last night, and he's already calling it a lame duck Congress. Republican firebrand Tom DeLay joining us after the break to give us his take on what the midterm results mean for the next 2 years.
When the battle for Congress ends, the real fight will begin. Iraq, the economy, the war on terror. With tough issues in play, find out what it all really means from the best political team in the business. Decision 2006, The Aftermath. Special coverage all day today, only on MSNBC, the place for politics.
I'm Montel Williams. The Partnership for Prescription Assistance is traveling to all 50 states, making stops to help people pay for their medicine.
I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't able to afford my medications, and PPA gave me back my life.
This past year, America's pharmaceutical companies gave away more than $5 billion worth of medicines to people in need.
It has been a lifesaver for me in more ways than one.
If you need help, just call 1-888-4PPA now. The Partnership for Prescription Assistance, on the road to helping.
I can't protect you. Can't tell you to take another route or make the driver look before he turns. I don't, in fact, even know you. But I'll be there to help you heal and ride like new again. Just like you'll be there for me.
We are all connected and thousands strong. Regents, together, we can take charge.
Star Wars, for the first time ever. All 6 movies, all in high def, ready when you are. Only on Cinemax and Cinemax On Demand. Order now to see the entire Star Wars saga. See each movie when you want, as often as you like. All in spectacular HD. Only with Comcast Digital Cable. If you have Cinemax and HD from Comcast Digital Cable, go to Channel 1. If you don't, call 1-888-COMCAST to subscribe now.
MSNBC.com, your guide to Decision 2006. Exclusive insights, up to the second results, the whole story. Politics.msnbc.com.
You know, FedEx really helped us with our overnight shipping, even heavy stuff. Now we've added FedEx Ground for everyday shipping.
FedEx is saving us a ton of time. So why aren't we getting more done?
Maybe we should get rid of the half pipe.
No, the half pipe stays.
Gotta keep the half pipe.
FedEx Ground. Fast, reliable, and for less than you think.
MSNBC Up to the Minute is brought to you by FedEx. For all your shipping needs, relax. It's FedEx.
Keeping you up to the minute, there is the opening bell on Wall Street. We'll keep a close eye on the markets today to see what, if any, reaction traders have to the shifting balance of power in Washington. The Dow's already down 46 points at last check now, and we should mention it was at a new high at one point yesterday, reaching 12,196, but again, opening down. We'll continue to keep our eye on Wall Street. As of right now, Democrats have a net gain of 4 Senate seats, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, and Rhode Island, but 2 of those races are still too close to call, Montana and Virginia. NBC News is projecting Democrats will pick up 32 seats in the House of Representatives, giving them the majority. And for the first time in 12 years, Democrats also captured a majority of governorships, winning 20 of 36 races. Democrat Deval Patrick cruised to victory in Massachusetts, becoming that state's first black governor. Well, 90% of the nation used high-tech equipment to cast ballots yesterday, millions of them for the first time ever. And it seems the process was smooth for the country as a whole. But by the looks of these pictures, some areas did run into problems, causing some very long lines. Joining us from Albuquerque, New Mexico is Ray Martinez. He is the vice chairman of the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Amy. Thanks for having me. And I'm the former vice chairman of the Election Assistance Commission, by the way.
All right. We appreciate that clarification. It
Sure.
seems some of the biggest problems were in the larger voting places like Denver, Colorado, equipment failures leading to long lines. Tell us what happened.
Well, I think it's important to note that in so much of the country, as you pointed out in your introduction, we ought to give credit where credit is due. Election officials worked very hard to absorb a lot of changes that were asked of them, both with the technology that we use in the election process and with new laws and procedures. And so I think that's important to note that by and large things went smoothly. But it's also important to note that the glitches that occurred are more than just a blip on the radar screen, as you point out. So in Colorado and Denver, you saw that election officials are trying to use technology to their advantage by having vote centers so that people can have convenience of voting. But unfortunately, the software or the servers that were serving or that were supporting that particular technology went down. And we saw glitches similar to that with some machines not being able to get started in time in other jurisdictions around the country as well, Amy.
As you noted, and most of the problems were of technical nature, but some of them were due to confusion. There were some new laws in several states that required specific ID to actually vote. In fact, I believe South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford had to go back home and prove that he was a resident. How much did that impact voting yesterday, just the confusion about new ID laws?
I think that is probably the most significant impact, in my opinion. So what we have then are changes in technology, and we've talked about some of the glitches that occurred, but perhaps more significantly are the changes or the complexity in the process that we're asking poll workers in particular to deal with. You know, to be a poll worker these days in America, you have to be part computer technician, part lawyer, and that's asking a lot of our poll workers. And so I think what you have are a lot of changes to laws throughout the country. You know, the chief election official in Missouri, Robin Carnahan, was improperly asked for a photo identification when she went to go vote, according to reports. So we have to emphasize greater training of poll workers. We have to figure out how we can ensure that poll workers have an ease or comfort level with the technology, but also a good understanding of the laws and changes that occur throughout the country and from jurisdiction to jurisdiction with the laws that take place. We have to emphasize the human aspect of election administration and try to place a great deal of emphasis on poll worker training, voter education, election official training, et cetera, Amy.
All right, Ray Martinez, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, one of the House seats the Democrats snagged from Republicans came in the Texas district of former House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. My colleague Rita Cosby joins us now with more on that race. Rita.
Well, Amy, it is a seat Republicans have held for more than 20 years. Democrat Nick Lanson defeated Republican Shelley Sekula Gibbs. Sekula Gibbs still will finish the last 2 months of Tom DeLay's term. Former Congressman Tom DeLay announced his resignation from Congress back in April to fight corruption charges in Texas. And joining me now live this morning right now is former House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. Congressman, how would you best describe last night, an avalanche, Black Tuesday, or a political tsunami?
Well, Rita, I'd call it a Texas whooping, that's for sure. The Republicans really took a bath last night. I don't think it was a wave. It's pretty, it's less than the average of elections in the second term of a two-term president. So, in my opinion, the Democrats didn't win, the Republicans lost.
What went wrong for your party?
Well, I think over the last couple of years, we just played not to lose, and we didn't fight for the things that we really believe in. I think fundamental tax reform, redesigning government, winning the war on terror, a strong immigration policy, turning around the culture of death, stopping overactive judiciary. None of that was articulated to the American people, and the Republicans teamed up with the independents and dumped on their incumbents.
speaking of what was articulated, exit polls show that an astounding 3/4 of those polled said corruption and scandals played a key role in their vote. Were the Republicans just too tainted after issues with Bob Ney, you, and especially Mark Foley?
Well, the Democrats had, and with help from the national media, did a very good job of pointing out the corruption of Republicans. In my case, I haven't been found guilty of anything. In fact, I've been indicted on laws that didn't exist. But others, FBI investigations, sex scandals.
What about the Foley factor?
The Foley factor was the last straw. I mean, and it's a double standard. I mean, the Democrats had plenty of corruption problems too. I mean, Harry Reid, Alan Moynihan, you have William Jefferson, but it's a double standard. Democrats re-elect their corrupt members, the Republicans throw ours out.
And, you know, last night Howard Dean ripped into the Republicans, saying that Americans instead wanted a party of hope, and he said they voted out the party of, quote, corruption and fear and smear. What do you say to the Democrats today?
Well, they better they shouldn't get too used to being in the majority, because most of the seats that they won we will take back in 08. I mean, my own seat, Shelley Sekula Gibbs got more votes in her special election than Nick Lampson got in his general election.
How did you feel about the loss of your own seat personally, Congressman?
Well, I'm personally disappointed. Unfortunately, a write-in is almost impossible to do.
Do you think redistricting played a role?
The saving grace is Nick Lampson is going to be a one-term congressman.
Do you think redistricting played a role that you were pushing hard for in Texas?
No, not at all. What played the role was a federal judge making a terrible ruling that did not allow me to be replaced by a Republican on the ballot. Because Shelley was on the ballot and she got more votes than Nick got in the general election.
How do you like hearing the phrase, Speaker Nancy Pelosi?
Well, it's very disappointing, but I understand it, and we'll just have to wait a little while for the things that we've been fighting for: fundamental tax reform, immigration policy, stopping an overactive judiciary. None of that's going to happen anytime soon, and the American people immediately are going to, every family is going to be paying at least $2,000 more a year in taxes.
I've got two questions for you. The president's going to address the nation a few hours from now. What do you think he should say?
I think he ought to say, I will work with you when you stand for something, and hopefully we can work together. But I know Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, the only way that they're going to work with the president is if the president capitulates to them. So a closely divided Senate means not much is going to get done for the next 2 years. What you're going to see is investigations, defunding the war, and raising taxes because they can raise taxes by doing nothing, and let the tax extensions expire. So that's probably what you've got to look forward to in the next 2 years.
There's been a lot of criticism this morning. Some people criticizing Hastert, of course, tainted a bit by the Foley scandal. What do you think should happen to him? And also, finally, a lot of conservatives in the last, 12 hours or so saying Rumsfeld should leave.
Well, the leadership of the House and the leadership of the Senate are going to have to sit down and think through, take a deep breath, don't run from what you believe in.
What about Rumsfeld?
And look at how you can go forward. I'm a great fan of Don Rumsfeld. I would not take him out because he's done a great job. He will continue to do a great job in leading the military in winning this war on terror. And frankly, I think that'd be a great signal to the Democrats that we're not going to capitulate to you. We'll work with you, but we're not going to give up what we believe in.
Former Congressman Tom DeLay, always good to have you on, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you. And Amy, back to you.
All right, Rita. Well, they expected him to lose, just not that badly. Some of the biggest surprises of the night, including Republican Rick Santorum's defeat in Pennsylvania.
Time for your business, small business advice. Here are the top ways to cut postage costs. Use the Postal Service's Carrier Pickup Program. which allows an unlimited number of packages to be picked up for free. Send packages in a flat-rate box and use bulk mail. You'll save up to 15 cents per piece for first-class mail. For more information, watch Your Business Sunday mornings at 7:30 on MSNBC.
Made possible by Open from American Express.
With unmatched technology and innovation years ahead of its time, we've pushed the boundaries of high definition and tested the limits of reality. The new Pure Vision Plasma Display, only from Pioneer.
Afraid to show your face? Not me.
Finally, a breakthrough solution for red, irritated skin. Aveeno Ultra Calming Moisturizer with natural feverfew proven to reduce redness fast.
When you've got healthy, beautiful skin, you're not afraid to show it.
Aveeno Ultra Calming.
Are you a homeowner with a first mortgage, second mortgage, auto loans, student loans, or credit card debt? Or would you like to consolidate your debts into one low monthly payment? Just call or log on to ditech.com and refinance to a low fixed rate with a lender you can trust. With Ditech, you can feel confident that you're being taken care of every step of the way. Call us now at 1-800-71-FIXED or log on to ditech.com, a GMAC company.
Sometimes I look in the mirror and I think, geez, whose skin is that? And then I get it. It's mine. So now I use L'Oreal's new Age Perfect Pro Calcium Moisturizer. I mean, I take calcium every day to feel a little bit stronger, but this does the same kind of thing for my skin. Age Perfect Pro Calcium Microspheres deliver calcium to fragile skin, making it toned, resilient, redensified. Now, my skin's pretty darn amazing. And you know what? We're worth it. New Age Perfect Pro Calcium by L'Oreal Skincare.
Got extreme stains? Then you need OxyClean Laundry Stain Remover. Even fruit juices and cola come out right before your eyes. It's chlorine-free, so you can trust it on all your clothes. OxyClean Laundry Stain Remover. It gets the tough stains out.
Are you being audited? Have you not filed tax returns for years? Do you owe back taxes? The IRS will relentlessly pursue you for unpaid taxes. The certified professionals at TaxMasters will solve your IRS problems. For immediate help, call us now at 1-800-581-0448. Phones are answered 24 hours a day. TaxMasters, we solve your tax problems.
He'll be back. California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger has been elected to a second term. Voters seem to appreciate Schwarzenegger's bipartisan approach to governing, sending him back to office for a sequel.
I love doing sequels. I love doing sequels, I tell you. But this, without any doubt, is my favorite sequel. I have to tell you that. What a great night and what a great victory. What a great victory for the people of California.
Democrat Phil Angelides failed to get even half the vote, finishing with just 39%. Well, Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman made a dramatic fourth-term comeback, but this time as an independent.
I'm Joe Lieberman, and I approve of this election.
Well, here's where the numbers stand. Lieberman came out with 50% of the vote, while Democrat Ned Lamont walked away with just 40%. MSNBC's Chris Jansing is live in Hartford this morning for us. And Chris, this wasn't a surprising win, but it's worth mentioning. What a comeback.
Yeah, amazing comeback, really. I don't think you would have found too many people 3 months ago after his devastating primary loss to Ned Lamont who would have believed that not only would Joe Lieberman come back, but he would come back to win by 10 points and embolden, maybe even stronger than he was before as a force in the Senate. What happened here? I mean, twice as many voters in exit polls said they oppose the war, and Joe Lieberman, of course, a strong supporter of the war. Several things. Ned Lamont was seen by more than half of voters as someone with not enough experience to go to Washington. And give credit where credit is due. Joe Lieberman, analysts will tell you, ran a good campaign. He raised a lot of money, about $15 million, and he managed to get out a message apart from the war. He said he is the one with experience, that he is the one who's bipartisan, and that he could be a force for change, which is a pretty tough sell when you think about it, since he's been in the Senate for 18 years. But that also means in a small state like Connecticut, a lot of people know Joe Lieberman, they like him, and there were plenty of people, I have to say, according to the exit polls, who said they were opposed to the war, but voted for Joe Lieberman anyway. Amy?
And obviously, Chris, many people talking about what Lieberman will do, who he will side with once he heads back to Washington officially as an independent. He says he is going to vote with the Democrats. Is he looking for a leadership position?
Well, he has been promised that he will keep his seniority, and he has said, in spite of some suggestions to the contrary, that he will indeed remain with the Democratic camp. But he has sent out the message repeatedly over the last week, and he said it again this morning on IMES, that even though he'll caucus with the Democrats, he feels after this experience of essentially being rejected by the Democratic Party that he feels even more independent, that he feels he has to be a more critical voice. And so one of the things that's going to be interesting to watch is how the Republicans court him on some of these tight votes, if it is as it will be a tight Senate, and see which way he lands. But Joe Lieberman goes back, I guess you could say BMOC, big man on campus. I think one headline put it, he could be the Senate's 800-pound gorilla. Amy?
All right, Chris Jansing, we appreciate it. Thank you. So control of the Senate hinges on two races, including one that could take several days to decide, Virginia's Senate race between George Allen and Jim Webb. And Montana's Senate race still too close to call, but we could know results in that race between John Tester and Senator Conrad Burns sometime this morning.
Keith Olbermann's special comment. One thing is certain. When Keith talks, people listen. Only on Countdown. Only on MSNBC.
Cotlin Gardner is a real Geico customer, not an actor. So to help tell her story, we hired an actor.
My husband totaled our new SUV on my birthday.
But you know I still love him.
Less than 6 hours after the accident, the Geico claim adjuster was at my house.
Well, I put on some tangerine lip gloss and answered the door.
Geico service turned out to be the best birthday present I could ever want.
I was one lucky woman.
Geico. Real service, real savings.
No matter where people are going, we're all going in the same direction. The future. Something we're thinking about today. A good example? This ultra-clean diesel fuel we're producing in the U.S. It contains 97% less sulfur. And we can all benefit from that. I'm Chris Erickson, and I work for ExxonMobil.
When you have a question about anything at all, just text it to Ask Me, and we'll text you back an answer for only a quarter. 25 cents now gets you answers to anything, including 411 numbers, directions, sports scores, horoscopes, jokes, weather, news, stock quotes, even crazy trivia questions. Save 27563. Ask Me into your mobile phone and start asking questions now. That's 27563. Ask Me. We've got an answer for everything. Welcome to the new world of mobile information.
She was born from a ragtag group of dreamers who felt there should be more on TV than 3 repetitive channels. Cable grew to become a great American success story. Cable's fiber optics let us see far beyond the horizon. Cable employs hundreds of thousands, made the internet lightning fast, and is now working its digital magic with your phone service. Cable's ragtag dreamers made America a better place.
Ends, the real fight will begin. The big issues, the best political team in the business. MSNBC, all day today.
As a growing business, you don't always get the attention you really need. That's where the principal can help. From banking to health plans to retirement solutions, we have lots of ways to help a not-so-big business rise above the crowd. The Principal Financial Group. We'll give you an edge.
With election night behind us, we wanted to take a look back at some of the more surprising results from across the country. So to help us with that, we're joined by Mark McKinnon of HotSoup.com. Mark is also the former chief media advisor to President Bush. So Mark, what surprised you most?
Well, all of it surprised me. I feel kind of like the homeowner after a hurricane checking to see if he has any property left. Pretty resounding results across the board. We'll see what happens in the Senate, but clearly a change of leadership in at least the House. So
you didn't think that was going to happen?
Well, yeah, certainly I had an expectation that could happen because it has historically happened. In fact, the numbers are a little bit under the average for the 6th year of a presidential term. But, you know, listen, I think when you have people like Rick Santorum, who's the third in line of leadership in the Senate, being, you know, swept out by a fairly large margin, that voters are sending a clear message for change. And I think the big question now is, will the Republican get that message, listen to that message, and work cooperatively? And I feel very positively about the fact that that the president will reach across the aisle, as he did in Texas when he was governor. And we watched him work very well with Democratic leadership in the House and the Senate, and got a lot of things done. So I actually think that we can see a very productive couple of years here.
In terms of surprises, I mean, Montana had been labeled the reddest of red states, or at least in that block of really red states. And Virginia, Northern Virginia aside, also a red state. Are you surprised how razor-thin those elections are right now, and where do you think it's going to fall?
Well, we'll know in a few hours, I guess, maybe a few days in one case. But no, it's not a surprise that that the races are close, given what we saw before. In fact, in Montana, I think Conrad Burns ran a much stronger race than anybody expected him to. A couple of months ago, he was in double digit. He was losing by double digits. So the fact that he made it close testifies to a strong campaign that he ran. And actually, the president going in and helping him there at the end, I think, really gave him a shot. But they are just. I think the real surprise is Virginia, where Senator Allen was a formidable senator and a presidential prospect. So that, I think, is the real surprise, and of course could be the seat that swings the balance of power.
Absolutely. Senator Lieberman winning is not a surprise. Recent polls were showing that he was definitely ahead of Lamont. What do you think we're going to see from him once he heads back to Washington? Do you think we'll all be surprised, or is he going to caucus with the Democrats through and through?
I think Joe will be Joe, and that's the great thing about Joe Lieberman. You know, he is. I think he's a great example of a great character candidate who has stood up for his principles, stood up for what he believed in, and even in a heavily Democratic state, people appreciate somebody who stands for what they believe in, stands on principle, and shows some real character, which is what Joe Lieberman has done all his political life, and I expect he'll continue to do in the future. And I think he could be a real leader in the coming years, creating a bridge between the two parties.
All right, Mark McKinnon, we appreciate it. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Well, we are coming up on the top of the hour, and the jury is still out in Virginia and Montana. More than 24 hours after voters headed to the polls, there are still no clear winners. Lester Holt continues our coverage next.
As a veteran of the first Gulf War, Sergeant Paul Ray Smith was an experienced soldier whose mission was to prepare his company for the realities of combat. Before long, in a battle outside Baghdad's airport, Smith's company was put to the test.
You can see RPGs streaming about 20, 30 feet over your head.
Risking his own life, Sergeant Smith led his team into a desperate fight. Firing his .50 caliber machine gun, Smith held off the enemy and saved more than 100 American lives. But at the height of the battle, Sergeant Smith was mortally wounded. In 2005, President George W. Bush presented Smith's young son David with this nation's highest military citation, the Medal of Honor. Sergeant First Class Paul Ray Smith, courage and uncommon valor.
I'm not a big fan of homework, but every once in a while you do learn something. Like, did you know we've got more coal in America than the Middle East has oil? We've got like a 250-year supply. Now that's worth knowing. Here, I'll tell you more.
I'm making Jimmy Dean. Want some?
High pressure system in the early afternoon.
We'll have a high pressure system in the early afternoon.
Sunny, high in the low 80s.
It'll be sunny, high in the low 80s.
Chance of precipitation.
There'll be a chance of precipitation in the afternoon. There you go.
Wow, that was fast.
Wow, that was fast. Microwave.
No way, this came out of the microwave?
Yep. No way this came out of the microwave.
The day begins with a happy breakfast. Delicious Jimmy Dean fully cooked sausage, fresh from the skillet, taste fast.
I got up this morning, my knees were bad again. So I took Bayer, and that was that.
Genuine Bayer aspirin. Painkiller. Lifesaver.
I expect to keep playing.
Bayer, expect wonders.
Presenting Blue from American Express. The card with no annual fee and an introductory rate of 0% for up to 15 months with a low APR after.